Okay, yeah, I think we can get started now since everyone's here. So thanks everyone for attending today's Beyond the Scope. So today we have, instead of technical talk, we have a couple of our CEMAS alumni. So we have Jessica Alexander, Julia Dietz, Brasser, and Yufeng Zhang. And they're going to talk a little bit about what they've done previously. And then just a reminder for what's upcoming is next week. It's the Microscopy and Microanalysis Conference. It's all online if people are interested in going. Most staff members can be there, so I'm looking forward to that a lot. And then the next week after that, Steve Buna is going to be giving a talk on transmission Kikuchi diffraction in the SEM. So I mentioned each panelist is going to give a little bit of a spiel about what they've been up to and what they did at CEMAS, what they're up to now, and how it affected their journey. And again, with all these seminars, we like them to be fairly interactive. So ask lots of questions. So you can go in, click like the Q&A button, and submit them that way is the easiest way to do it. Or you can also talk and chat a little bit and we can discuss things there as well. Or if you have any kinds of problems, let us know. And I know there's people that aren't from CEMAS here, so I just wanted to give a quick background on CEMAS. It's a College of Engineering research center. So it's a user facility where we have users a lot from the university and then also from companies, other universities and stuff. So people can come and use the equipment here along with the expertise of a bunch of staff that maintains the equipment. We have a wide range of instrumentation, so ranging from transmission electron microscopes where it get atomic resolution in our Titans to doing cryo-electron microscopy in the Krios and Glacios. We have a couple dual beam instruments and also quite a range of scanning electron microscopes as well that can do a lot of cool things along with our non-electron microscopy instruments. Just a few of those. So I'll give you an idea of what's available at CEMAS and what these guys have worked on a bit before. So to start off, we're going to have Jessica Alexander. If you want to give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Alexander, and I earned my physics degree from the University of South Alabama in 2013. And while I was there, I did some research in condensed matter physics. And so that's kind of what led me on my path to material science and engineering. And so I decided to come to OSU because of the great facilities and because I was interested in studying organic electronic material. And so while I was at OSU, I worked with Dr. David McComb in using analytical electron microscopy to study optoelectronic materials. Specifically, I spent a lot of my time doing electron energy loss spectroscopy on organic photovoltaic materials. And so we developed methods so that we could, because these materials are extremely beam sensitive, so that we could get that EELS data before the material had damage. So that was a lot of what my PhD work was on. Now, while I was at OSU, I took a big interest in teaching. I knew I wanted to teach after I received my PhD. And so I helped out a lot with the sophomore characterization class. I helped teach the Intro to Material Science class while I was there as well. I reached out, Brian did as well, I'm sure he'll talk about this a little bit too, to the University Education Department, and we took some classes in teaching at the university level. And so where I am now is I am a full-time teacher at the Alabama School of Math and Science. And this is a public residential school that is for highly talented, highly motivated students all throughout the state of Alabama. So they apply to attend this school. And we have a huge emphasis, as is in the name, on science and math. And so as a physics assistant professor, some of my responsibilities there are to teach physics classes. I teach advanced placement physics, but I'm also the engineering instructor there. So we just have a department of 3. It's very small in the physics department. So to take care of the engineering classes. So I teach robotics. Last year, I introduced an engineering mechanics class because a lot of our students are interested in mechanical engineering, civil engineering, now material science engineering. A lot of them didn't know it was a thing before they started taking my classes. And this year, I'm actually teaching an introduction to material science class. So high schoolers will get to see this type of material before they go to college. So hopefully it'll give them a step up. And so I'm trying to reach these students, not quite at the university level, but before they get to university so that they can decide what they want to do in the future. Does that work? Hello?
Yeah, sounds
Anybody?
good.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's interesting always to see like what broad range of things people do afterwards, from all that working with that to research and everything as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool.
And I will add that at our school, we do have a research fellows program too. So we are trying to get some of these high schoolers into doing more university level research as well.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So next, Julia, you want to give a little background on yourself and what you've been up to now?
Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me. Let me know if you can't. So I, like Jessica, also got my undergraduate degree in physics at the University of Toledo. And while I was there, I got started with doing some research on photovoltaics, specifically cadmium telluride devices. And I really was interested. I felt like that material system and photovoltaics in general needed desperately structure property relationship understanding. So that's how I sort of switched over to material science at Ohio State. And there I worked with Dr. David McComb and Dr. Tyler Grassman. Dave McComb was more of the electron microscopist at the time. Tyler Grassman does a lot of electron microscopy now, but he's more sort of the electronic specialist. So my work was kind of bridging those communities. And I did a lot of photovoltaics in graduate school, like Jessica, electron energy loss spectroscopy, EELS. I did a lot of electron channeling contrast imaging to look at structural defects in materials and trying to correlate what we saw physically with electronic properties. So that's how those two techniques really came into play there. So after I graduated, which was December 2018, I did do a short postdoc with the Air Force Research Lab in Ohio State. There I was doing EELS as well on what are called Maxine materials, which block magnetic waves. And from there, then I got my job, which I have now, at Sandia National Lab. And so here I do a few things. Primarily, my role is doing research. However, at the lab, we have what are called technologists. And these are people who don't necessarily do their own research, but they do a lot of sort of routine SEM or TEM for the lab. And if they have questions, they might come to me. So any experience I had with teaching in grad school certainly is helping with that part. And here I'm doing sort of some of the same stuff, you know, looking for these structure property relationships in electronic materials. A lot of that is gallium nitride. The lab is very interested in gallium nitride materials, but there's all sorts of stuff, you know, like a lot of times people will come to you with material that's really hard to image or hard to do analysis on with electron microscopy, and they want to come up with ideas of how to help that. So that's where I can come in as well. So I will say I do think CEMAS definitely prepared me well for this role. And one thing that's nice is it does sort of seem like wherever you go, everybody recognizes Ohio State and CEMAS for their electron microscopy. So I do think it gives you a leg up in the future when whatever jobs you're looking for. Okay, I think that finishes it up for me.
Okay, thanks, Julia. So, Brian, you're up next. You've been up to.
All right, so I also went to Ohio State for my undergrad degree. I started in 2007 in material science, and I actually came to Ohio State because of the material science department. When I was looking as an undergrad, I knew that Ohio State had the largest program by far, and so it was really attractive. And I came out from California, which is a bit of a change. As an undergrad, I was fortunate enough to have Hamish Fraser as my undergraduate advisor. Even though I didn't do really anything with metallurgy, he was really formative there, and I got my first taste in electron microscopy before CEMAS was called CEMAS, and we were in the basement of Watts doing SEM work for my senior graduate project. It was really fortuitous because that also led to a job opportunity. So after I graduated in 2011, I went as an electron microscopist to Owens Corning. They're based in the Toledo area, but they have a science and technology campus in Granville, which is just about 45 minutes outside of Columbus. So I worked there for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, as one of their electron microscopists. And in that capacity, we worked on materials development. So Owens Corning does fiberglass composites everywhere from home building products, consumer grade electronics, up armored vehicles for military applications, and renewable energies and stuff like that. So they're sort of everywhere. So we sort of had our hand in all different projects there. Also doing patent litigation. It was a really interesting job. While I was working there, I was also trying to figure out where I wanted to go with my career, and I had really found a fondness for electron microscopy. And so in working with Hamish Fraser, who was still advising me even though I wasn't a student anymore, he got me in contact with Dave McComb, who at the time was busy designing and building CEMAS, but he was just getting his research group off the ground here at Ohio State. And he had a position working with the Center for Emergent Materials on spintronics, which aligned pretty well with my background and my interests. And so during my PhD, worked a lot with high resolution STEM, EDX, EELs as well, trying to understand ordering in these materials. We were mostly working with perovskite materials. And so we were trying to understand how atomic scale defects, interfaces, disorder, things like that might affect their larger scale electronic and magnetic properties. And so we were using the whole host of tools on the two Titans for the most part to try and understand those problems. In the later half of my PhD and in the short postdoc that I did at Ohio State after I graduated, we moved into more strictly magnetic materials, working with skyrmions, which are some interesting magnetic materials that are pretty hot at the moment. And we were working with physics as well on that, and working with Lorentz microscopy. So sort of moved my way through the different things that the Titans could allow us to work on there. I would say in terms of working at CEMAS, the best thing that I think I had as an opportunity there, and I think anybody that's still there should make use of, is just the collaborative nature. I wasn't fortunate enough to be there with the new office space, but even the office space that we had when we were all working there was very collaborative. So working with not just people in my own group, but other people's groups, Mike Mills, Hamish Fraser. Now, of course, we have a lot more professors working there. So just take strong advantage of that would be my recommendation. At the moment, I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at Monash University, which is in Melbourne, Australia. So it's quite early in the morning for me. I'm working on technique development. So we have a double aberration corrected Titan and a new one on the way, hopefully starting next month if the pandemic will allow. And we're developing new quantitative imaging techniques, both in high resolution TEM and in STEM and 4D STEM. And we're applying that on metallic nanoparticles. So that's where I'm at now.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian, for the intro there. Okay, so yeah, Yufeng.
Okay. Thanks, Dan, for the introduction, and thanks for having me. It's always great to get back to Ohio State, to get back to CEMAS. So this is Yufeng. Right now I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Chemical and Materials Engineering at University of Nevada, Reno. So you can see the background of on my screen. This is what I use for when I did my teaching last semester. So I joined Professor Hamish Fraser group, and I joined Ohio State University in the year of 2007. So at that time, I worked in, that time there's no CEMAS. At that time, it was called Campus Electron Optics Facility. It's called CEOF. It was located at the basement of the Woods Hall. And I received my PhD degree in material science engineering with Hamish from OSU at the year of 2013. And after graduation, I worked in the CEMAS and also in the CAM, it's called Center for Accelerating Maturation of Materials, as a postdoc from 2013 to 2014. And then afterwards, worked as a research associate for another 5 years. So my research at Ohio State University is focusing on the solid state phase transformation in metals and alloys, such as in titanium alloys, hydrogen alloys, magnesium alloys, and also silver alloys. And so I think when I left Ohio State University, I published kind of like more than 30 papers in the peer-reviewed journals and presented 20 times in the international conferences. I think if I look back from my experience, my almost 12 years at the Ohio State University, I think it helped me a lot in my whole career, because I have, you know, when I study and work at OSU with Hamish, and I decided to stay in academia, and I want to become a faculty member in the field of material science engineering. So I think during the 12 years, I received the best training along this pathway in the field, at least in the field of research and in the teaching. And I totally agree with the previous three friends. You know, CEMAS has one of the best facility all over the world, and you can work on almost all kind of different electron microscopes if you want. And also at CEMAS, you are working and learning with the world experts, the faculty members, and the research staff at CEMAS. That's the unique opportunity you can have, you know. And also you have the opportunities to work on different projects, especially after I graduate, I got my PhD degree, and the reason I stayed at OSU, one of the important reasons I stayed there for a long time after graduation is I can work on so many different research projects, and I also have the freedom to design the projects by myself, because I have so many tools, so many colleagues there. No matter which direction I want to go to, I can find help. And also you have the opportunity when you work at OSU, you can collaborate with the world leading scientists in almost every different kind of areas. And that is the this kind of collaboration, not only it can last very, very long, even after you leave CEMAS. And also besides the teaching, besides research, I think I agree with Jessica and Brian. You know, you have a lot of opportunities at CEMAS to train yourself about the teaching. For example, you can do different teachings in different microscopic class for the undergraduate and graduate students. And also you have the opportunity to attend different outreach activities to teach the students from K-12. And this kind of teaching will help you a lot in your future if you want to become a faculty member. And also, I believe the courses provided in the courses and the trainings provided in the CEMAS in the field of microscopy is one of the best all over the world. That can help you a lot in your future career as well. So, so right now, I'm an assistant professor, a tenure track assistant professor at the University of Nevada, Reno. So right now, my research is focusing on the still on the metals and the alloys, and so basically, I'm trying to build my research group right here, and also build the electron microscopy center here. And but compared, you know, the electron microscopy center here cannot be compared with CEMAS. We don't have that many facilities at all. But I think all the things I learned about from OSU, from from the electron microscopy can be applied in here. And then last semester, I was teaching a graduate level class about electron microscopy, and next semester I'm going to teach the undergraduate student level materials characterization class. And actually right now also I keep really close relationship with my with the faculty members and the research staff at CEMAS. I have already visited CEMAS twice in the last year. And if there was no COVID-19, I think I will visit CEMAS more. And also I talk with Hamish, talk with Dave, Rob, and also talk with Frank and Hank a lot about the teaching. So actually I got received a lot of help from CEMAS members about how to teach the microscopy class at here. So I think, the experience, the study and the research experience at CEMAS will help your career for a very, very long time. So I would highly recommend the students at CEMAS right now take this great opportunity. That the CEMAS, the working environment, you have, you cannot have it everywhere in the world. So especially if you travel to some other universities, you will treasure what you have at CEMAS more and more. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Feng. Okay, so now that we've had a few minutes for everyone to introduce themselves, if people have questions, you can go ahead and type those into the Q&A. So anything about what what they're up to now, what got them to where they're going, from anything really. You can put those in the Q&A or the chat as well, or if you want to even chat a little bit more, we do have the function to be able to raise your hand and ask questions as well there. Hey. So I have someone that raised their hand. Ashley, can you help out with that? So I'm in presenter mode.
Yes, I can. Let me flip over. Oh, I don't.
It looks like it was Chang Han.
Anyway, if you want to ask a question by talking, you can just raise your hand again, and then we can unmute you as well. If you lower your hand, it'll disappear if you accidentally clicked anything. Anyway, so yeah, if you have questions, ask them there. I think one thing I'm always interested in, at least, is right now with the whole COVID environment, like CEMAS we've been going through so many different transformations about how we actually do things as well. So I always wonder what that's like for all the other different environments everyone else is in. So if anyone wants to talk about that a little bit, I think that's always interesting.
Yeah, I'll go on that. So we in Australia took a bit more of I'll say a proactive approach to things. So our case numbers have been quite low, but the restrictions have been quite strict. So we started work from home at the beginning of March, and we completely shut down the lab for about 6 weeks in the beginning, and then we went to staff only. So our lab, unlike CEMAS, doesn't have very many students actually working in the building. It's mostly just staff, a couple of professors, and then a few postdocs. So we were allowed to return at some point towards the end of May, I think. And then they've slowly started allowing people to come back in. But they've done things like you can now only have one person in the room, in any given microscope room. Everybody has to wear a mask and gloves. And you have to scan your ID in and out so that they always know who's in the building and for how long for contact tracing. So it's definitely slowed things down. They're also they've changed the way that the tech nights, for example, can be. They used to be able to be booked for shorter amounts of time, and now you have to book 4 hours at a time. And they clean the room in between users. And the Titan, you have to book all day, and they clean it before each user goes in. So It's definitely a bit more strict, but the nice thing, well, at least selfishly for me, is that at the moment, they're only allowing people who have 24/7 access to come back and use the microscope, so the calendars are a bit less busy, which is nice. So it's a bit heavy-handed at times, but it's definitely working for us at the moment.
So, so I can share some of my experience for the COVID-19 because I was teaching the electron microscopy class last semester, and when the COVID-19 started in the middle of March at US, and then we fully went to online teaching. So I think what I learned from CEMAS about remote electron microscopy plays a very important role. And I talked with Hank and talked with Frank a lot about this. And they also introduced me a lot of online teaching tools. For example, some kind of like a virtual SEM and virtual TEM online. And this kind of tools help, I think, based on the feedback I received from the graduate students in the class, I think they really liked this virtual SEM, virtual TEM tools online. And also I received, a lot of kind of short videos recorded by Hank and using the TEM in the CEMAS, and this kind of short video also helps students a lot. Yeah.
I can go. So since Sandia is a national lab and we do a lot of defense work, we were considered essential by the state of New Mexico. So we never actually fully shut down, but 70% of the workforce started working from home entirely. So I work from home about 50% of the time. Obviously, I can't do the microscopy from home. But going in isn't too much of a problem. Everybody's required to wear a mask. Like Brian's place, we also have to scan into any building that we go into so that we can do contact tracing when necessary. And so we're not like a user facility, so not everybody can use the microscopes. It's pretty much just the characterization team that can use it. So it's not too much of a problem getting on the microscopes by ourselves, and you're pretty much in that room all on your own. You don't see very many people since so many people are working from home anyways. Yeah. All right, I guess Jessica should go.
Yeah, so I obviously have a slightly different situation because I'm a full-time teacher. So we shut down school mid-March and went to remote learning. And something that was really valuable from my experience at OSU and my experience at CEMAS was we had to be extremely collaborative. This was a whole brand new situation for all the teachers. Nobody knew what was coming. Nobody knew how to handle this. As a high school, we didn't really have an actual learning management system like Carmen. And so we were having to be very creative in our problem solving as well. Which you do a lot at CEMAS, or a lot in research, period. It was just applying those research skills in a slightly different way. And so we went remote through the rest of the year, and obviously we're getting ready to go back in the near future and full masks, all that stuff. So that's what we did with when the pandemic really ramped up.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's nice to hear what other places are doing, what's going on. So yeah, I know CEMAS has been similar for the people that's been here. I know there's a couple specific questions and then some more generic questions in there. So what do I want to start with? I think one that's always interesting is, how did you initially navigate the process of working with faculty? So probably, I assume, working with faculty, try to find a faculty advisor. What influenced you, I guess, also coming to Ohio State and that kind of stuff? I know you guys touched on that a little bit. If you have anything else to add.
I'll go ahead and get started. I feel like I was very lucky and very fortunate. When I was in undergrad, I learned about organic photovoltaic materials, and I thought they were a real promising technological avenue that we needed to pursue. And so when I was invited to OSU to visit the campus, they do a bunch of great like activities where you get to meet and talk with the professors. And I had a very great experience. Everybody was very easy to talk to, which wasn't necessarily the same case at other schools I went to. And I started talking to Dave McComb about my interests, and he told me he actually had a project opening up in that material system. And that influenced a lot my decision. So once that seemed to kind of fall into place, and it really seemed, you know, kind of like meant to be, this is where I wanted to go. Once I learned more about the facilities and things like that, and just how great those facilities were at OSU and specifically at CEMAS, it was a pretty easy decision for me to make to go there.
I'll go next if you're done. So my experience was very similar to Jessica's. So I also went to the open house and just talked to professors there. And so that's how I found my position. I mean, I came in and knew that I wanted to work on photovoltaics. So because of that, I sort of naturally gravitated toward Tyler Grassman, since that was his primary research. And in talking with him about some of the things they were doing, I kind of had this idea that characterization might be a good field for it. And then later I talked to Dave McComb, and you know, it just seemed like a really good match working with both of them. So I believe Tyler sent me an email asking if I was interested. I said I was, and you know, I asked if it was possible to do a joint project with Dave McComb, and they were both fully supportive of that. So I do think like the meet and greet does give you a good sense of what the advisors are like, and how much you'll enjoy working with them. And they've both been really great for me.
Yeah, I came to it from a bit of a non-traditional route. I actually was working at the time, and I wasn't really looking at Ohio State. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go, and I was talking to Hamish Fraser about that. And I was just I actually started taking some courses, some graduate courses at Ohio State while I was still working. And while discussing with Hamish where I thought I wanted to go, and that I wanted to do microscopy, he said that he had a position open working with high entropy alloys and high resolution EDX on those systems. And even though I didn't really know anything about metallurgy, it sounded really interesting. And so actually, originally I was first accepted and hired into the graduate program by Hamish Fraser. But before I even started, he got me in contact with Dave McComb, and so I actually made that move, which ended up going pretty well as well. I would also say that you know, so I only had one advisor. I didn't have two like Julia did, but I would say for any grad students out there or undergrads who are looking to graduate school, that it was also important to look to being collaborative with other professors, whether they're in material science or in the microscopy facility or even further afield in the university. So Dave was really encouraging of my working with, we had collaborators in physics and chemistry, as well as material science, and even some from other institutions, ones that David worked with, as well as a couple others. So I would say, you know, obviously talk to your advisor about it, but try and get involved with as many different projects as you can, especially if they're sort of not in your specific field of expertise. So some of the most fruitful collaborations I had, I would say, were with Mike Mills' group working on nickel-based superalloys, which I can't say I know a whole lot about, but that was really interesting and really productive. So just getting out there and fostering those relationships is really important. And all you got to do is ask. Most faculty are pretty happy to help.
Yeah, I think I agree with Brian and also all the previous speakers. And because my case is a little bit different, when I joined OSU at 2007, I already decided Hamish is my advisor. So, but I agree with Brian that although my advisor is Hamish, but I have the opportunity to collaborate with all the other faculty members, not only in the CEMAS, but in the faculty members in the material science department at OSU, but also the external collaborators. For example, for the microscopy, you have all the experts at CEMAS, and in the department I work, my work is collaborating with Youngji and on the phase simulation, and also I collaborate. My work is collaborated with JC a lot about high throughput experiment, and also have some. Also, we have collaborations with University of North Texas on the Atom Pro, and we also have collaborators from Europe, also from Asia, from different countries. So I do believe that at CEMAS you have the opportunities to work on a lot of different things, collaborate with different faculty members. I think as long as you want to do something in a specific field, they have a good idea, and then you can talk with different faculty members. They are very friendly, they are very helpful. So.
Cool, thanks, Yufeng. I think there's a very broad questions here. So about advice to get involved in research. I think you guys talked about that a bit with talking a lot to professors and stuff, but also they're kind of asking about what kinds of scientific research questions can microscopy help answer. I think it's kind of a broad thing. You guys talked a little about your research, but if anyone wants to get a little bit more detail on that. I think as it pertains to people looking at different projects, different career options in grad school or others as well.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So working for the national lab, I think microscopy can answer all sorts of questions. So in our characterization lab, and I assume this is similar probably at most national labs, a lot of times you'll get people coming in and they say, why did this break? Why did this material break? Or why isn't this as efficient as I thought it would be? Or what makes this device different from this device? So that can be all sorts of things. I can't think of actually very many areas that electron microscopy couldn't help. Like for example, one of the things I've been working on at Sandia is these new type of calcium batteries that degrade really quickly. So they know that this material has certain species in it from XRD data, and they need to know where it's going and where is it in the sample and how's it acting. Sometimes, this example is sort of similar to industry, but you'll get metals that fracture real easily, and people want to know why. So I think it can help with quite a broad range of materials.
I'll also just add to that so I have focused more recently and in my PhD on high resolution stuff, but I would say that it's really important to try and get as broad of an experience as you can, and that's obviously helpful at a facility like CEMAS where you've got SEMs, dual beams, TEMs, XRD, and everything like that. And CT now as well. When I was working at Owens Corning, it was almost exclusively SEM work and XRD. But there are a lot of job opportunities. I mean, that one sort of fell into my lap. It was really, really nice because at the time I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And it actually came because I was using the SEMs at CELF, the precursor to CEMAS, and Owens Corning reached out to Cameron Begg, who was running the SEMs, and said, we need somebody who knows how to use a microscope. And they sort of needed somebody quickly because of a logistical issue at the time. And he disseminated that information to those of us that were using the microscopes a lot and that we're in a position to take a job. So I would say it's also important to get to know the technical staff as well, because they have a lot of people in industry who reach out to them and say, do you know anybody good that can use a microscope. And I mean, I think that some of the most interesting stuff that I did while I was working there was, for example, patent litigation. So we had, it sounds pretty boring on the face of it, but we worked a lot with roofing shingles. That's one of Owens Corning's biggest products. We had to using our design without a patent, and I gave my technical advice on it, and in the end we found out that that was a $1.5 billion a year patent. So it's really really good to have these skill sets, and you never know where it can take you, but there's plenty of different ways that it can go, and so yeah, just again, keep open relationships, I'd say, with the technical staff, because they are really good keys to getting you in places. Also, just answer Bean's question here in the Q&A. So he asked about looking for next positions and how that's affected by COVID. At the moment, I'm not currently looking for a new position. My postdoc here was originally a 2-year postdoc, which would end in April of 2021. But we had already agreed before the pandemic started to extend things out, because our new double-corrected microscope was a bit delayed. Of course, it's quite a bit delayed at this point. It should hopefully be signed off on this week. But the next problem comes with getting engineers into the country. Australia is closed at the moment. So my time here has been extended out. So at the moment, I'm not really looking for a position. So I would say, in terms of looking for positions, or if you're at that point, I would lean heavily on people that you know, whether they're faculty or grad students, former grad students that you might know, current postdocs, anybody that you know, just asking around, because we all sort of know people all over the place and can try and help out with that. So if you're looking for a position and you're not really sure at this point, you know, ask around. You can email me, or I'm sure any of the other panelists.
Yeah, I think for one more thing about position, the job market right now is due to the COVID-19. I think many universities in US right now, due to the budget cuts, it's still the hiring is still frozen. For example, in my university right now, it's still the case. The hiring is already frozen, starting from March. So, and we are not sure about whether we can have new positions in the fall. The university is still discussing about the budget. And another question I see here is to ask me about the kind of transition from the postdoc to the assistant professor, and were there any aspects that were overwhelming at first? And I feel like so for a faculty member, tenure track assistant professor, I think you know the job is divided into 3 parts. It's the research, teaching, and the service. I think your work, your study at CEMAS can at least train you really well in the previous 2 aspects about research and the teaching. Because I have been, I stayed at CEMAS for a long time as a research associate. So in the last 2 to 3 years, I have really high flexibility. I have really high freedom to decide what I want to do and to design the project in my own research. So I feel like from the research point of view, I got a lot of training. So, but the different thing is, as an assistant professor, I need to start writing more proposals. So that's one thing. If you have the opportunities at CEMAS, you should get involved. Maybe you can start from some simple, maybe undergraduate award or those kind of things. It can help you to train yourself about writing proposals. And another thing is about the teaching. So just now I mentioned I actually last semester, the spring semester, is the first time I teach. And actually during this process, I got a lot of suggestion and help from the faculty and the staff at CEMAS. And I think that's one thing. If you want to practice, you can. I think Brian and Jessica, they have a lot of experience. They do a lot of teaching when they were working and studying at CEMAS. So you can get involved in those kind of opportunities to teach in the class for the undergraduate student and the graduate students, and also get involved into the outreach of activities to teach the K-12 students. Those kind of teaching experience are very valuable, because it's definitely, you know, totally different when you teach in a class. You know, it's different from, you know, you'll learn from the textbook by yourself. So that's also another suggestion I have for the students at CEMAS. Yeah.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, you know, as a graduate student, you're required to be a TA for however many semesters, but you really do have the opportunity at CEMAS to go above and beyond that. And so I helped out every year while I was there. I served as a TA. And I actually had the opportunity, working with Frank Shelton's, to take a much more active role in the class. So I got to write activities for the class. I got to give my input on things I thought we could improve based on what the students were saying, got to lead classes. And so if you are interested in teaching, there are lots of opportunities that CEMAS can provide to you so that you can get that type of experience, because you really want to get that experience in grad school if you can, rather than getting started on the job and thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do? How do I go from 0 to 100? Now I'm in charge of teaching these 30 students all at once. And so those opportunities are there for you for sure.
Yeah, so maybe just one small thing I forgot to mention is another thing you can train yourself at CEMAS is when you become a senior students in the group or in the CEMAS, you have the opportunity to mentor some junior students or even visiting students. And this kind of experience will help you a lot when you have your own research group, when you teach or you mentor your own PhD student or undergraduate students. This kind of experience is really helpful. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a quick comment on the last question, and then I see I have a question specific to me in the Q&A that I will get to. In terms of the job market, I guess I kind of got lucky when I came in because it was pre-COVID times. The national labs, I think probably across the board, are under hiring pauses at the moment, in big part just because they can't get people to come out and interview. There are always positions still that open that need to be backfilled. So I'd say the best thing to do, as a lot of people have recommended, is just reaching out to specific individuals instead of waiting for a specific opportunity to come up. And then sometimes that can be helpful, so that if something does come up, then you can apply it that way. And if anybody is interested in getting to a national lab, this was not the route that I took, but I think this is maybe a more conventional route. If you try to do a postdoc at a national lab, via fellowship or you know, just a standard postdoc at a lab, that's usually a great way to get your foot in the door, because they a lot of times want to see how you can do in work before they fully hire you. So yeah, definitely look for postdocs at places and recognize that that's an opportunity to get a full-time job afterwards, if that's what you want. I saw I got a question asking what my day-to-day was like and if I was encouraged to publish, so pre-COVID times. So my position is sort of unique at this lab in that I'm in the Advanced Science and Technology division. So in our specific division, we do a lot of fundamental research, which means that we are encouraged to publish quite a lot. So there is a metric that they use when they're determining, you know, once a year you'll have what's called a performance review. And when they're doing the performance review, they'll be looking at things like that to determine if they should bump you up a position or if you should be getting a raise. So this isn't true across the lab, because there is a lot of confidential work, and some of the work that I do is confidential as well. You have to be able to get a security clearance to work at Sandia. That's true with quite a few of the national labs, but not all of them. So you have to pass a background test. But yeah, so some of the work is confidential, you can't publish it, but on the whole, they encourage you to publish. They want you to be getting in on this fundamental research in this department. So yeah, my day-to-day is actually not that different from my day-to-day at CEMAS. You know, some days you're on the microscope, some days you're doing analysis, some days you're writing, that type of thing.
Okay, so those were the main questions that have come in so far. I know someone had raised their hand earlier. Just trying to look for them on the list to see if we answer their question or not. But if anyone else has any questions, go ahead and just you can type those in. Otherwise, I think we are getting close to our hour anyway. So let's try to see. I think there were some other generic questions in here that might have been interesting.
While you're looking, I'll just expand on one thing that I think Jessica brought up. For any of the grad students that are at Ohio State and might be interested in teaching. So that's eventually I'm going to be looking for an academic position. That's the end game. Jessica and I both spent a good bit of time in the University Center for the Advancement of Teaching, UCAT, which is sort of an umbrella group that teaches people how to teach. They actually do an entire curriculum. So I got, and again, you want to talk to your advisor about this because it is extra courses. So Dave was happy to enable us to do this, but I got a specialization in university and college level teaching with this focus in science and technology. And so it was, I want to say 6 or 7 courses, as well as some mentorship and a little bit of active teaching as well. But there are opportunities like that at Ohio State. That was also really informative because part of that program, when I was a part of it, was I got into the Future Fellows program where I was paired with actually a university professor at another institution at Otterbein to sort of give the perspective of what it's like to be a professor at a university that's not an R1 large-scale research institution. So Otterbein is, I don't know if liberal arts college is the right term for that, but it's definitely a lot smaller. They don't have much of an engineering program, which is why I was working with a physicist, but it was really interesting I went there a number of times and got to get the perspective of what it's like to teach at a smaller institution. And it was really informative. It's not the path I see myself going, but it's really nice to get opportunities like that. And it also got me some really good FaceTime with the dean of the graduate school, because she ran the program, maybe the assistant dean. And so she actually was kind enough to also provide a letter of recommendation. So you never know what those types of programs can open up for you in terms of people that you might meet. So, and experiences to have. So if you want to teach, definitely, well, talk to your advisor about it first, because they need to obviously be open to it. But just like Jessica, I think I taught almost every semester that I was there, with 1 or 2 exceptions. I mostly did the TEM lab, which is mostly graduate students, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah, just to add on to what Brian was saying, I mean, he and I took a class where we designed a whole course. So we wrote a syllabus, we planned out the whole semester, we chose activities. They provide you with so much background and so much education in teaching, a lot of things that you don't necessarily get from the more traditional graduate education. And so I would just second exactly what he said. If you're interested in teaching, if you have the support of your advisor, I would seek this program out.
Okay, so we're just about wrapping up. I don't want to take too much more of your guys' time, but I did see someone was just asking, which I think is a fun question to end on, would be, what are your favorite memories from CEMAS? So you guys want to give those? Maybe we don't want to hear those, but yeah, what you have to say.
To get started, I would just say in general, working with the other students at CEMAS. Some of my best memories are sitting in the back in our little cubicles talking about our research or whatever's going on in the day-to-day. And so the real camaraderie you have, not only with your group members, but the other students who are at CEMAS. You get all sorts of little inside jokes and things. And even though I'm not at CEMAS, I still have friends and I feel like I'm still a part of CEMAS because of that.
Yeah, I would, I mean, definitely in terms of memories from CEMAS, I mean, sitting in the we call it the bullpen at the time. I think it's offices now for professors, but we were all sort of intermixed in different groups. That was really nice, but I would have to say for me, it was the general atmosphere of the happy hours. That was also a material science thing as well, but just seeing, like, for example, and again, I said that some of my most fruitful collaborations were with Mike Mills. A lot of those happened at happy hours on Friday afternoons, where we would get talking about things. And so being able to also see people outside of the office, but still be able to talk about work, but not in sort of an onerous way. I mean, Mike Mills was just genuinely interested all the time in things. And when you got a couple beers in him, he's extra interested. So social things like that were, I think, really helpful for pushing along the collaborations.
My answer is not too different from what Jessica and Brian said. The sense of camaraderie with a lot of the people there was definitely my favorite part. So in terms of like doing the trainings, you know, having people who are doing training with you. Jessica and I did a ton of training together, and that certainly made it way more enjoyable to have somebody to do it with. I actually really miss, you know, the times when we would get training with Rob in the Titan room. It was probably like me, Jessica, Brian, Derek Miller, the whole crew. It's always a great time there. So yeah, CEMAS is definitely a fun place to learn all these things because there's so many people doing very similar things to you.
Yeah, I think my best memories for CEMAS are two things. One is the happy hour, just like Brian, Julia, all the previous speakers talked, and the happy hours on the Friday really help a lot, to help us to get in touch with faculty members, get in touch with all the other colleagues, all the other students in the CEMAS. That's a really good environment. And the other thing I really like CEMAS is the weekend I spend at the CEMAS. At that time, kind of like I have the freedom, I have the access to all the equipment. I can use. I just spent 1 weekend. I can finish the work from the SEM to FEEM to TM to even high-res them, all the things. So I think that's are the two my most favorable memories of mine from CEMAS.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, again for your time with everything. If anyone has more questions for them for CEMAS, you can just let us know. I'm just going to mention that, again, next week's M&M, and then Steve will be giving a talk on TKD and the SEM. You can always view these previously recorded seminars. You find those at the CEMAS website. It'll take you to a link to YouTube You can show us anyone you want. I think there's been some good discussions we've had so far. And then again, if you want to connect with us in any way, go ahead. It's great hearing what's going on in the outside world with the CEMAS alumni that are here and everyone else. So take care, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks.